So, I was gonna do a experiment on how different types of sugar affects the human body, or at least how its different sugars are broken down in the human body. Because just with glucose rates and the amount of insulin needed to break down these different sugars and how these different sugars actually last in the human body, it was kind of interesting to me, mainly because I'm a type 1 diabetic. But alas, I don't have any tools necessary to conduct an experiment like that, and also I don't know how to conduct an experiment like that. So, while I was brainstorming how I was going to do this morning, I was boiling up some water to cook something for breakfast, and what I always do is add in a dash of salt because I've been told since I was a little kid that adding salt to water helps boil the water faster. And when I thought about that, I got an idea as in, hey, let's go ahead change the experiment up a little bit. And so pretty much, I wasn't able to find any great sources on this. I found one from a website called astrocamp.org, which is a science camp ran for kids. I don't know where they're based out of, but their About Us page seems pretty atypical for a science camp. They have a summer camp and they have school trips. So, if you're interested in that, go ahead and check them out, I guess. But, anyways, to reel it back a little bit, we know that during the freezing point depression lab that within adding salt into the water, the physical properties of water was actually changed and that the freezing point of the water was changed. So if we know the freezing point of the water is changed, then we can go ahead and say it's safe to assume that the boiling point of water can change as well. But what does this mean exactly? Does it mean that the water is going to boil at a different rate? Does it mean it's going to boil faster than water without salt in it? Maybe, maybe not. That's kind of what the point of this project that I am conducting together is. So, what we're going to do is, I'd say, we're going to use, probably just in case of any materials that differ between the two pots, we're going to use one pot and 2 cups of water for each experiment. I'm going to go ahead, we're going to go take it into the kitchen, add in, let's say, 1 tablespoon of salt into one of the experiments, and we're going to time it, take temperature. I want to see what the temp is when it starts to boil and what the time is when exactly it starts to boil. And also, too, maybe just for, giggles, we can say, let's say, in case it doesn't make any change at all, but the water with the salt, in fact, heats up faster and quicker, then we can go ahead and maybe take, let's say, we can take time and temperature at about, water roughly takes like 6 minutes to boil, I want to say. So let's do 3 minutes in. 3 minutes in, and then 6 minutes, we're gonna use a scientific guess that at 6 minutes the water is gonna boil. And so we're at 3 minutes, we'll go ahead and take the temperature of the two. I'll go ahead and write it down. We'll see where we're at, and then at 6 minutes, or just at completion for when it's boiling, we'll go ahead and take another temp, see what it's at, and see what the time is that it took to get there to that boiling point. And my educated guess is that, or my hypothesis is that it's not actually going to make the water boil faster. I believe that when people say, oh, add some table salt to water, it's going to help it boil faster, I think they're correct, but they're not thinking of it in exactly the right way. I believe the amount of energy needed to boil the water is probably going to be less, but it's probably going to boil off at exactly the same time. Alright, so we're in the kitchen. We got our pot. We got some measuring cups around here. And so to kind of answer the question as to why people say adding salt to fresh water and boiling it makes it boil faster is because pretty much the heat capacity or boiling point of salt is actually a lot lower than it is for just regular old water. So adding in salt into water will actually bring the heat capacity a lot lower to where it actually takes less energy to boil the water. But kind of like I was saying earlier, this could be dependent on how much salt we use. This could be dependent on what kind of heat you're trying to boil your water at. So, let's say if adding in 3 tablespoons of salt actually does in fact make the water boil a lot quicker, then yeah, that's cool. But also too, who's going to want to eat your pasta afterwards? So I'm going to fill up this water and I'll be right back. All right. Water is doing some stuff. I won't call that a full boil just yet, but just to kind of go in more in depth on this one. So does adding salt to the water make it boil faster? Does it make the temperature in water get hotter? Well, not necessarily. What it means is that salt water is more resistant to a change in temperature than regular water is. So what that means is that less heat is going to be required to change the temperature of the water, but it doesn't necessarily mean that salt water gets more hot than regular water. And as we can see now, I'll go ahead and call that a boil. So we went ahead and swapped out the water, the salt water for the regular tap water. We went ahead also too, just gave the pot a good rinse and then also rinsed it with cold water so that the heat from the pot wouldn't be affecting the experiment. We also did, I took the initial temp of the water beforehand and it was about 12.9 degrees Celsius, and at about 3 minutes and 56 seconds in, it went to about 99.7 degrees Celsius. So I believe right now we're at about 4 minutes or so, maybe. So I think definitely with 2 cups of water and 1 tablespoon of salt, it's definitely going to add a big difference. And we're going to stop the video now to check the time. Alright, so after taking our final temp, we can see that for water without salt in it, it actually boiled off at 3 minutes and 31 seconds, and it got to a temperature of about 100.3 degrees Celsius. This change is about 20 seconds faster than our initial test with the salt water, and if we refer back to the... where'd it go? Here. If we refer back to the AstroCamp website, we can definitely see that, just reinstating what they said, it raises the boiling point and it lowers specific heat. I believe that the change that people are expecting the most in adding salt to their water to make it boil faster is the fact it lowers the specific heat needed to actually make a change in temperature. But the thing is that the more salt you add, the higher the boiling point is going to go, which we added 1 whole tablespoon to 2 cups of water, which made it actually boil off. It boiled off 20 seconds slower than without any. So I believe that when people say add salt to their tap water to make it boil faster, I believe they are probably just referring to just a pinch of salt, because it doesn't seem that it actually does make it boil faster. It actually makes it boil slower, but it gets it to that specific heat faster, pretty much, because it takes less energy to get to that. But the thing is, if you add in too much salt, you're going to need to get all the water and all that salt to its own boiling point to be actually able to be boiling. So I believe my initial hypothesis on that, they were both going to boil off at exactly the same time, I don't believe it was necessarily false. I believe that if I only used a pinch of salt, that it actually would have boiled quicker. Because if we go in through more of kind of the data that they have here, it does seem that it does boil quicker if you do add a smaller amount of salt. But then again, if you add in a lot more, it gets it to a higher temperature and it loses less energy. But like I said, you just have to get it to that boiling point at that point. So anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. I think next time that you're boiling water and you think about adding salt to it, no, it's probably just for flavor, and you're not actually doing anything to make it boil faster. But, like they say, what is it? A watch tea kettle never boils. So maybe it's supposed to go on with that.
you're getting in the idea that it's boiling quicker just because you added a little pinch of salt in, which not saying it doesn't make it boil faster, just even if I added in a little pinch of salt, I would assume that it would only be faster by a couple seconds. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something about salt today and salt water. Thank you.